Hi, it's Jen. Today I want to do a video that I said in my last video that I was going to do, that we're going to make something out of our scraps. Now, our last video we made these little round ephemera pieces, and so today we're going to make something from the scrap that we got when we did this. So we're just going to move right along. I'm going to share with you the one in my book. And here we go. And this is what we're going to make. We're going to make a pocket. Now, it all stemmed from, I was trying to figure out what I was going to use this craft paper tape. And when I did it, and I punched out the circle out of the paper, I tossed it aside and I'm like, that could be a window pocket. So that's where the idea came from, is when I was working on these ephemera pieces. And this is what we have. We have it mounted on a piece of card, and then I have some acetate in between, like in between those two pieces, and then I decorated it with some sewing pattern pieces. I did a little bit of embossing, and I have these ephemera pieces from Tim Holtz. It's from the Botanical ephemera pack, and so I just used a couple of those pieces. And then I have some vintage stamps, so I just put a vintage stamp there with some lace, and then I have a piece of material here with a mother of pearl button. And then your pocket, I made this one into a slip pocket, and I didn't do anything on the card behind it just because I thought all that coffee dye looked so nice that you get to look at when you take out your tag. And this tag comes from ARTYmaze's bee. I don't know what it's called, but it's her bee junk journal thing that you can get. And so I just had one of these on hand and I put it in it, and I kind of liked it. So I just made this dictionary page into this slip pocket, and then behind here I made it into a slip pocket. And I wanted to make, this had so much going on, so I wanted to keep my tags pretty simple for behind it. This is just a larger recipe card. You could stamp on it and do whatever you want, but I wanted to keep these pretty simple just because I do have, like I said before, a lot going on. And then I made this really simple, but I think beautiful tag. And at the end of the video, I'm going to share with you how I made this as well. So how about we begin making our pocket? So the first thing I started out with for the backing was this side of this card, because the leftover piece will make great tag for another spot in our journals. So I'm going to leave this one and use it just as a tag, decorate it up a bit. So that's what I'm going to do, is I'm going to take this side of the card. Now, if you don't have this, because it's kind of like a cardstock, but if you don't have this, you can just use your favorite cardstock, and this measures 4 3/8 by 5. 4 3/8 by 5. That's the size you're going to want it for your pocket. And I just tea-dyed it. I quarter around the corners with the 1/4 inch corner rounder, and then I just inked all around it. So you need to get that prepared and ready to go. The next thing you're going to need to do is make sure you have one of these pieces. Now, if you haven't made my last video's piece and you don't have this scrap piece around your table, you can just make it by taking a dictionary page. All I did was I took one whole dictionary page, put glue on it, folded it in half, and there you go. Then what I did is I took my 2.5 inch circle punch. I like to line mine up with the words on the right and the left. I don't take into account for this space, this white space here. And there you go. And then what you can do is you can leave the same amount of space that's on top of your circle on the bottom, but I like to make it a little bit longer just because you are going to be gluing and sewing and all that kind of stuff. So I do make it a little bit deeper. Sometimes it depends if I'm paying attention or not. So what you're going to need to do is you're going to need to ink all around the inside of the circle. So I just took my ink dauber and I just made sure that all around the inside it was inked, and then I did some inking so you could see it on the outside as well. And then you need to ink all around the outside of your pocket as well at this time. So I have one ready. So here we go. Now I have it all inked, and then the next step you can do is I put pattern pieces on my pocket, and I just randomly do it. I like to put 3 different ones on my pocket, and so this time I like this arrow here, so I like to put that on it, some lines, and then a plain one. So, and I just used a glue stick. I just ripped off a pattern piece. I took my glue stick on it, and I just put some glue on it and then stuck it down, and that's all you need to do. I measure this. Now, this one is 3 1/4 by 4. 3 1/4 by 4. Now, your pocket sizes are going to be different just on how you start your base. And so every time I make one of these, the size is different. And you know what? That's okay. And I kind of like it that everything isn't the exact same thing all the time. And so this measurement is 4 by 3 1/4. And then what I did is I cut a piece of acetate with that same measurement. I didn't want to cut out a 3-inch circle or a 3 1/2 because I didn't want to worry about it moving or buckling or anything like that. So what I just did to make this a whole lot easier on myself is I just cut a piece of acetate. I don't know if you can see that there. The same size as that rectangle. That way it's all ready to go, and wherever I sew on this pocket, it will grab onto. And then you need to get out a piece of cardstock. Now what I do for pieces that are behind, I have some scrap paper. You know how you have the scrap paper that you don't really want to use, but you don't know what to do with? So what I usually do is I use it for linings, for different things that I do. And I just cut it the same size as my pocket, which is 4 by 3 1/4. And now what you want to do when you cut it a circle out, what I did is I put my piece of cardstock in my punch, and then I took my pocket and then I lined it up to the paper and then I punched. That way you will have, your paper will be perfect and it will line up perfectly. So now that we have those 3 pieces cut out, I have my dictionary page, I have a piece of scrap paper, and you're going to want to ink all around the inside of the circle on your scrap piece of paper and the outside, just because when you sew them together you don't want it to be white. So I just made sure I inked all around the edges, so that way when I put my pocket together it won't stand out like a sore thumb, right? And what I did as well when I designed my pocket, I wanted my white space to go back to back, so that way when you sew it, and if you see anything inside, you'll just see some inked white paper. That way if there's any mistakes, you just see the inking, right? So you just make a sandwich of these, and what I did is I just put a dab of fabric fix on each corner, and I glued it down to the back piece, and then I did the exact same thing to the front piece. So again, so you're going to put a dab of glue on all 4 corners on the white paper, and then you're going to squish your acetate on it. Then on top of the acetate, you're going to put another dab of glue on the 4 corners, and then glue down your dictionary page. Now, it's not going to fully hold it together. I'm just wanting it to hold together so that way I can sew all the way around it, so nothing's moving on me. So that is the point of the glue. So now that this is done, next is sewing. So what I did is I sewed all around the middle, and I don't worry about if it's perfect sewing or not. And then I just sewed all around on the rectangle as well. And I put some decorative pieces in there, stitches and whatnot. And then now we're ready to decorate our piece. Now there's another reason why you want to keep your circle, is because I'm going to do some embossing on the dictionary page, and you're going to want to cover up our acetate. So number one, it won't melt or warp. So, and the reason why I like to do my embossing now is because I like to put it over top of things. I don't want to put it on my page and then sew over top of it. I find that when you put it over top of the sewing stitches, it makes it a little bit more interesting. So that's why I'm going to do my embossing right now. So I'm going to get out a stamp. Now the stamp that I'm using, it's just a no-name fill. It's just a round decorative piece, like a filigree type of thing. So that's what I'm going to use here. And then I'm going to get out my Stays On and my white embossing powder. All right, so now I've kind of figured out how to decorate this piece beforehand, but I'm kind of drawing a blank of where I was going to put my pieces. Okay, so I'm going to do one here. I'm going to do one right here. Here, here, and there. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do. And then oop, wait a minute. I always forget this part. Using the powder. So I just quickly do that. And then I'll just put a little bit more on. And then I just stamp it down. This is the only full one I'm going to be doing. Alright, there we go. And then I'm just going to use white. This is just, I got this at the secondhand store actually. And it looks like it's from Hobby Lobby though. It's just white. And putting that circle where the acetate is good anyway, because then it won't, your embossing powder won't stick to it either. There we go. And I'm just going to quickly take a heat gun to this. Alright, so I got that one done. And then I'm going to do one down at the bottom. Now my other ones I don't do the full. This is the only full one I'm going to do. And then I'm going to do this one right here. And then, oh, I didn't put powder down. That's okay. See, every time I do embossing, I always forget. Do you guys forget? It's okay. It'll be fine. Okay, and then I'm just going to heat that. I'm going to do one at the top here. So I'm trying to keep this video short because my last one ran a little long. So, oh, I didn't put powder down again. Okay. Okay. How about we do a thumbs up if you guys always forget to do the powder as well, because, well, at least I did it once, right? Oh, what am I doing? Oh, no, I don't. remember. That's okay. It's all good. And I'm going to heat it again. I like doing some embossing because, you know, we all have embossing powders and whatnot, and it's good to put in with our collage pieces because it just adds another element to look at. And I think that looks so pretty already. So I'm going to take this out, and that way I can kind of see behind it, so I know my placing. And so now it's just about decorating it. You can decorate this however you like, and I will show you the pieces that I'll be using. So the first thing I do is I put my pieces on it just so I know exactly where I want to glue them. So these pieces come from Tim Holtz's Botanical ephemera pack. So they didn't have, he only has one of each size. I think he has like 2 of these ones or 3, and they come in different sizes. So you can't really do the exact same thing every time. You have to do something different. And so that's why, and then your pockets are different as well. So I thought I'll do it something totally different just because we don't have the same pieces to decorate all the time. So I chose this basket of flowers because I think it's beautiful. And I'm not putting it on this side just because it doesn't look really nice draped over the circle. So I decided to put it on the left-hand side because the draping from the flowers over here looks really good. So I'm going to put that there. I'm going to use a butterfly this time, and I'm going to have its wing kind of up. And then I have a vintage stamp, and I really like this one because it's an older lady with glasses. I don't know if you can see it, but it's an older lady with glasses, and she looks like she's working or she's reading. So I really wanted to put that in it, and it kind of goes with our flowers, like the same kind of hue in the family. And then I have a little ruffle that I sewed a bow to that's going to go up here. And the reason why I chose blue is in these pieces there's blue scattered all over in the butterfly and the flowers. So I wanted to pick that color up just because there's, you know, the obvious yellows and the pinks and the reds. So I wanted to bring out the blue in the pieces as well. That's why I went with the blue piece up here. And so this is how I'm going to decorate this piece. So I'm going to just glue these on. Well, I have to tell you a funny story. For those who saw my video yesterday, I had told you the reasons why I wasn't here. Well, it's just ironic. I don't know how funny it is, but our dishwasher broke. Oh, and I always thought things came in a pair of 3, you know? But with me... But anyway, it was a blessing because my husband figured it out. He got the piece online and he fixed it himself. So that was a blessing. We weren't going to go through the store again just because we don't know how long it's going to be for my dishwasher to get fixed. And I don't know how many of you are like this, but I can't live without my dishwasher. I can't. Especially when I'm working. I don't want to, that's one thing that you don't want to have to take a lot of time doing is dishes. So I just, once it happened, I just kind of shook my head. I'm like, oh, I thought that was funny. I wanted to share it with you guys. And okay, so I wanted to talk about this ruffle right now. Now let me just get a piece of material so I can better explain it for you. And I did have a yellow piece that I thought would be easy to see, but no. Oh, I'll just have my blue stuff, but that's okay. All right, So what I did is I just took a piece of fabric, obviously, and then I just kind of made a messy ruffle. And then I just held it. I didn't want it to be too long because I didn't want it to cover the things that I already was decorating with on my piece. So I just made this little ruffle. I took a button. Well, before I took a button, I'm going to do it right here so you can see. The first fold, I flipped it up, got out my fabric tack. The glue will come eventually. And then, so you lift up the first fold, and I just put it, I'm going to dab a piece of glue here, and I do it on a blue piece of material just so you won't see it, so it won't stand out. Like, if you put it on the white, you will be able to see it a little bit, not too much. I just don't want it to look like it has glue on it. So I'm going to put a little dab here. If I can get this out. No. Sorry, guys. All right, let's see if that fixed it. So I just put a little dab of glue down there and hold it together. And that's just to hold the piece together. And then I do the same thing with the last one as well. Put a piece of glue there. And then you just hold it and let it dry. Now, there's a reason why I do that. I didn't want to sew it with my sewing machine just because I already did sewing and I don't want to go overboard, right? Doing the same thing because I want to do different things so it makes your piece interesting, right? So now that that's glued, what I would do is, let me see if I can find one quickly. I'm just looking for a button. And how about we use, this one's a little bit big, but that's okay, you get the idea. So all I did is I put my button on, oh, that looks cute with it actually. I put my button on the ruffle, and you can do it straight or crooked, whatever you want, and I just took embroidery floss and just sewed the button right on. But you don't want to sew it. So here's the back of your piece. Okay. The bottom ruffle, know how we glued it right here? On the back, you don't want to get your button hooked to this because what we're going to do, see how that's open? We're going to glue that on to our piece like this. See, this one's a little long. I would rip it more, but so when you put your button on, you're going to want to just, it's okay if the button hangs over, but you just don't want to stitch there. So what I would do here is I would put it right here. That way the stitching is in the middle and it's not touching the bottom. That way you can open up this flap. See right here, I can open this up. And I'm going to put glue on the back and on the front and glue it onto here. Because I was going to sew a piece, but then I'm like, because this button sewed through those layers, so I'm okay with that. So all I'm going to do is open this piece. And if it didn't make sense, please let me know and I can do it slower. But that's all I'm going to do, attach this piece. Because I was trying to figure it out because I don't want everything the same, you know? So I'm just going to put glue, oh no, all on the back there. And then I am going to put glue all up here because, and I'm not going to go all the way down with the glue on the front just because I want it to be loose as well. So let's figure out where I want it. Oh good, you get to see the pattern piece still. And there you go. And then that is glued on. So that's all I'm doing with that, just it to be a little bit different. And then this isn't glued all the way down, so you still have movement. And I think that looks really cute. Something different than what we did before in our piece. Just don't want to get any glue on that. And so now that that's all I'm going to decorate it. I'm going to get my backing, and here you go. So you can do this, you can glue it on all three sides, the two sides in the bottom, for it to be a pocket, or you can make it a slip pocket. And I probably will make mine a slip pocket again, because that way you're not confined to one size, and you can have stuff hanging out, and I think that looks really good as well. So I'm only going to glue it on the left and on the bottom. On the back side. Alright, let me just make sure, double check. And then, don't want to put too much glue because you don't want to make it a really small pocket. Okay. Alright, and then now I just try to make it so that on both sides it's even, the amount of space. And there we go. That looks pretty good to me. And so that's what I've been doing with my extra pieces when I use my dictionary pages. I make these things because they're so fun. And you know what? They look so good for the minimal things that you do with them. They look amazing, I think, anyway. And there you go. Worried about this side here. What I'm going to do, I think I'm just going to keep on, I'll try to squish it with my, alright, and there is our piece. Something that we were just going to toss and throw away. I think it turned out really cute. So it went from this scrap piece of paper and we turned it into a beautiful pocket. And I really like the embossing. It just adds a little bit more texture, interest, because you kind of went, oh, what's that? And I think it looks really cute. And so, and then what I was going to show you as well, really quickly, I'm going to share with you, I'll just bring these over to see what it would look like behind here. Oh yeah, cute. Like. Put that behind there. I think that looks adorable. And there's our pockets. I'm just going to quickly, right before I go, I'm going to share with you how I made this really, really simple tag today. Because as I was making these pockets, I wanted to make a tag that was quite simple. I didn't want it to be, because there's a lot going on here and a lot to look at. So I wanted to keep my tag simple, pretty and interesting, but simple. So that way, as I tuck it behind, it won't distract from what's going on in the front. So all I did is I took a piece of cardstock, I cut it at 2.5 inches wide, and I used my tag punch. This is from Hobby Lobby, and it's the Paper Studio. So I used that. I used this. And then what I did is I used reinforcements at the top. You can see it at the back. I used reinforcements at the top, inked them, glued them down, and then don't forget to ink all around your tag as well. And then I used seam binding, blue seam binding. This is right here. This is just a ball pin with some seed beads. I wanted a charm, but I didn't want something overpowering, so I really like that simple statement that it makes. And then I just used some pieces of square fabric. This fabric, I glued it on to a piece of just a scrap. Now how we have cutoffs to our book pages, this is, I believe it's 5/8. Let me just quickly, okay, here, I don't have this right, here we go. Yep, this is 5/8 wide. And then what I do is I cut it at 3.5 inches. And then what I do, let me see, 3.5, just quickly cut it on my mat here, there we go. 3.5 inches, and then all I do is I take some fabric. You can use whatever fabric that you may have, and I'll just take this. Alright, and so I just take my fabric here, and I take my glue stick, run glue all the way down that piece of paper, and then what I do is I just put my pieces of fabric going down like this. And there you go. And then I just quickly glue them with a glue stick just so that way I can get it to the sewing machine, and then I sew it. Now I usually sew it 3 times. I do one long one down the middle and then one on either side, but you're not going to be able to see with the camera, but I don't make them the same length. I like them different lengths. You could do a zigzag stitch if you want. I wanted to keep mine pretty simple, so I just did stitches. So all I did is I took my fabric tack and I just glued down the paper. That's all I did. So I'm just going to quickly glue down the paper. Now while I glued, I made sure I went over top of my stitches. That way nothing comes undone and the pieces of fabric will stay put. Now the reason why I just glue on the paper and not the fabric is because I want there to be movement with my piece as well. I don't want everything. There we go. And what I mean by movement, all of these move still, and I like that. If you don't like that, you can tack them down however you want, but I like that there's movement within my piece. And so here we go. And there, how simple, but how beautiful is this fall tag. And then all I did on the back side is I took a piece of dictionary page. I just ripped it actually, the middle out, and yeah, I just glued it down, and I thought that just added a little bit of interest, but not too much, so that way a lot of journaling can happen, or you can stick a picture on there with just something quick to say. But I really like this one as well. It's simple, but I think it's just as pretty as this one with the seam binding. So that's how I made that tab. It's super quick and easy. Well, I hope you really enjoyed to see what we did using our scrap material from doing this project. So we took this piece of dictionary page, and to me, I think it turned out really pretty. I'm really happy with how it turned out. Thank you so much for watching, and don't forget, let's not throw away our junk, let's journal with it. Take care, guys. Bye.